2XKO, the Alpha Lab, is out for a little bit here, and
Now you had hands-on time with this before,
touched it for a little bit at Combo Breaker. Touched it again,
but how
at
long
Evo.
are we talking about with that?
I mean, an hour, maybe
Yeah, that's
bit more.
Yeah, no, I played like 15 hours of this thing just over the past couple of days. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, I was able to do 2 streams and then just do a little bit of practice, but it's shocking how the thought was, oh, Rising Thunder into, easy to press, easy accessible buttons, right? You've got no worries about doing a quarter circle motion or anything, because it's all one button inputs for specials,
bro. I don't know what the hell they are thinking.
I think I do.
I think the game is hot right now. I think it's super juicy. I think it's got, like, it looks great. It plays great. The netcode is great. I don't understand the idea or thought process behind let's make everything super, super easy inputs. And they did. They totally succeeded for that.
Yep.
And then made a tag game in which I have seen Echo has an infinite. Yasuo has a touch of death. Darius has a touch of death.
Oh, man.
I think Ilaoi has a touch of death, but only if you have like a tentacle out. Like, people are getting TOD'd instantly within seconds of the beginning of the match.
So I think the thought process is, hey, we want this to be have the simple inputs so that people can walk in and not have to worry about learning the move list. It should be as easy as it is to click on your ability in a League game or press the keyboard button to do your ability. It should be as simple as that to do it in this game as well.
To be fair, touches of death in League are also totally a thing.
Ah, interesting. I didn't know that. I see. Okay.
Like, it is kind of on brand for Yasuo to be able to kill you if he touches you.
Gotcha. Okay. That's the source material right there. Well, it seems like, so everyone heard that and you're like, okay, understood. We understood the assignment. And they're like, what else? And it's like, yeah, just make it a fighting game. Make it fun. It's like, okay, cool. And so with the approach they took here, it is absolutely super low floor to walk in on. Low floor, you can do all the things you want to do right away.
That auto combo fuse that they have also is really strong.
Yeah, you actually,
like, it does good combos and as auto combo.
It lets you switch between so the auto combo fuse they added lets you do, like you can press light, medium, or heavy to do a full auto combo, Dragon Ball style, but it lets you switch in between the button strengths while you're doing it, and they have different enders, and there's a utility there, for sure. But the skill ceiling is so sweaty and unexpectedly tight that I'm like, I can't believe you're asking this of the player in a game that was presented as like, oh yeah, no, simple inputs. It's like, and the thought process is one that, I mean, obviously it's an alpha, so shit like, and like literally, I want to say Sean, one of the battle designers on the team, the guy we spoke to, really chill guy, was talking about how, like, yeah, the intention is not for there to be TODs or for like unskilled damage. Like Ari's assist currently
is super busted,
insane,
it's so fucking broken. Oh man.
So the thing is it's in every game where a character jumps out and does a diagonal projectile, whether it's Amaterasu in Marvel or Vegeta, it's the Cold Star or the da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the best. It's such a good utility to have of, like, stall your opponent in the place at a weird angle that's not a straight line. They can't cleanly jump that way, and lock them down and then just carry on, do what you want. On top of that, it OTGs. On top of that, you could use it twice if you use the 2 times assist. And on top of that, it doesn't scale. so it just melts you right now, and you get locked down insanely, right? You have the fact that like to do basic combos with most characters, it's very straightforward. You can do, light, medium, heavy, launch, jump, light, medium, heavy, and then super.
Then the special that brings him to the floor.
Yeah. And that's pretty universal. You can even get a little more out of certain characters that get like a ground bounce, like Echo can spike you down and then keep it up for a little bit more right into a super. So but they're real combos, they're decent. It's not like there's anything to it that is like that is viable, But if you want to get that little extra juice, if you want that little sauce glazed on top of your meal, you got to do a little thing that might require a micro walk, right?
Yeah.
You might have to do a micro charge, or in Alawi's case, you might have to do both while doing a really early perfect frame, not perfect frame, but like early tentacle attack. So
Yeah.
What's happening here is essentially to get the little bit of extra damage out of these characters, if you want to play like the best with them, like top efficiency, you have to do these little inputs that are very demanding, and it's interesting that they put that in the game. But as someone who's like, I'm like, okay, let me try out one of these. And Alawi in particular, she's got like light, medium, or medium heavy, and then you do tentacle, then you walk, micro walk, which means walking for
just a little bit,
like
just a little bit.
Walk forward for like a couple frames tops, and then do a charged leaping attack. But you don't charge it all the way. You charge it more than not at all, but less than full. and the full charge is also very, very quick. So it's a really precise input, precise hold. And if you do those two, you can get the combo to continue. It took a while for me to be able to be like, okay, I think I feel it. This is not going to be something I can pull off in the heat of battle. It's asking too much, right? Maybe,
right.
Yeah, and but you don't have to do any of those things. That's
you get good results out of even the most basic stuff. I will say though, man, I don't know what I actually want them to change, because I'm playing a lot of Darius, I'm playing a lot of Braum, I'm playing a lot of Ilaoi. So the big characters, which I'm really happy. There are 3 big characters in this.
Big bodies, yeah.
And one of the things that really stuck out to me is Darius has a grab super, but it activates on hit, where he smashes his axe into you, and then he goes into a command grab, essentially.
The off the ground one, yeah.
Right, yeah. And I was shocked because I kept running into situations in which they were on the ground, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. And like, sure enough, it would pick people up from like any scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of juggling, I'm like, the character is like always available to bounce around, barring some very specific situations. Like, it's super loose.
It's very loose and lenient. Yes, I noticed that as well. So Darius can do like a shoulder tackle that bounces you off the wall, and in a lot of games you'll get like 1 wall bounce, 1 ground bounce, 1 OTG per combo.
Yeah, like in Street Fighter 6,
right.
like you're sitting there doing your combo routing, and you're like, oh, did I use up the juggle point for this thing?
Yeah.
And am I gonna swing at them and it's just gonna pass straight through them because I used up all my shit? Not in 2XKO. I can do whatever.
You can
Whenever
bounce them off the wall and then do it again. And if you have enough time to get over there, then you can finish off the combo.
And so, like, that's super cool, and it really feels like this is one of the only fighting games I've ever played in which I'm like doing basic shit. And I go, well, what would happen if I did this instead? And I'm getting my own baby combo route.
And like, oh my god, it worked. Yeah.
And then I played against an Ari Echo team.
Oh yes, the team
did a 58 hit combo on me that lasted for 40 seconds. And I'm just like, what the fuck? That's too long.
So that's the team right now. And yes, they've made it clear that it's like, hey, that's not going to stay the same. right?
Too long.
But with these absolute wild anomalous shit that people are getting and going crazy on, and the dirt of his echoes mix-ups, all of this stuff, um I'm like,
I was so busted, dude. The fact that his super hits on counter and on hit.
but I think it's important to say that this is a fun ass video game.
Oh, absolutely.
It
It
is
has the
very
juice.
fun. It feels really fun to play. It feels immediately like, yes, everything you're trying and doing is kind of like working out, even if you're just doing like moving around doing basic stuff, calling in your partner. And I think as well, like, because it's one partner, and it's not like the full team of three and stuff, I think a lot of the we've talked about how wrapping your head around a team of three might be a lot for some folks. It's easier to focus on the one, and I think as well the things that are like really dirty left right moments and things that are meant to like, oh shit, which way do I block and stuff, are they're baked into these characters, and they're baked into some of the assists. You can zip past them with Yasuo and then snap and go the other way. But there's a fun thing that starts to happen where that little snap sound, the handshake moment, your brain gets trained to immediately, when you hear it, like, assess and switch my blocking direction, right? Like it's like it becomes a little mnemonic. Like you hear it and you're like, change up. The game is, something else is happening. It's almost like a WarioWare moment, where it's like, oh, we're playing the game and change, something else is going on now.
Yeah.
And if you pick the ability to do two of them in a row, then you're like, you have to get ready a second time. And it's a really fun moment of like, update quickly what's happening. The situation is no longer the same. Which way am I facing? Which way are they? It's a really fun little thing. That gets to be like real fun when you're doing the duos, right? So me and Reggie played the duos bit, and like, yeah, having the left right getting in on your opponent's shit is a fun way to play. And like, you have to burst for each other. You have to assist by jumping in on your own timing. So you have to feel when the right time is to support the person you're playing with. It was really, really unique, and I never definitely, it's a new experience to fighting games. Is having that feeling in duos. Garfield, you had burst.
I also say, like, maybe this is non sequitur, but I'm really impressed with the lobby system.
Yeah.
I think it actually has like a remarkably strong lobby system, in that spectating is free.
Yes, that's the thing. So as soon as we saw the little lobby characters walking around, I saw people posting going, we need to get rid of this fucking system. And I understand, because that sentiment is true, that like the lobbies with the cute avatars walking up to the arcades, ArcSys started that, and like that was really great. It was a fun thing,
At varying degrees of success.
But when it goes badly, it sucks and it makes it a problem, and it takes extra long and all these extra issues occur. But like at first it was like, oh, that's a fun little novelty, right? And then you kind of see that being like, hey, Guilty Gear Accent Core is actually just going back to, is just going to with like press matchmaking and it'll find you somebody, and then that's it. It's just a series of menus. Keeps it simple. It's a very pure, streamlined experience, and you know what? It fucking works, and it takes 2 seconds to get playing. So that's obviously what people are like positively wanting and fondly hearkening back to. But you walk up to a cabinet in the lobby in 2XKO, and you stand there for a second, and then it's like, oh, you start
watching the match now.
You start spectating the match that you're standing next to, and that's really cool. And then there's a one on the screen in the room where the couch setup is. That's the main room, and you're like, oh yeah, look, that's the main, that you can just go watch that one.
Yeah, and when you go up to the main setup and you look at the top of the screen, you can see how many people are spectating your match.
And then when you queue up to go fight somewhere, it'll just find 2 people that are free, and it'll be like, hey, run over to this machine if you want to go play, and like you can do that, or you can just stand at any other machine and play as normal. But it kind of is. It's like the lobbies in Street Fighter 6, but like that spectating thing is really, really cool. Like that adds a lot to it, and it was very fun to use. I think as well, eventually once the matchmaking element is put into play, then you're not going to have these crazy things of like, hey, I've never played a fighting game before, and now I'm getting touch of death by a fucking Sonic Fox setup. Like,
Yeah, no,
that's,
y'all can have a new Elo hell to go live in.
yeah, I mean, well, like, okay, the alpha is not going to present a proper tower of heaven to like strive yet, but for now, just being able to like get in and press some buttons and feel your way through this game, it's feeling really fun. What I was really surprised by is how absolutely bare bones everything outside of the fighting itself is. I really thought that there would be like more along, because it's been worked on for a while. So I kind of thought that like, oh, like the menus, the HUDs, and some of the that front end stuff would be like a little more, I guess, complete. But it really does feel like it's super early alpha, as it says.
So there's no release date on this. Not even a tentative one, right?
Yeah. I have a feeling in my heart.
I have
on the release date
many feelings in my heart, which I'd like to get to later. But more importantly, the first feeling is I think this alpha that they put together for us to fuck with is definitely not all they got.
No, definitely.
This is all that's clean enough to put in there. That character select screen in particular, having like a weird T shape, is like in the character profile thing, not this character select. It's like, oh no, there's definitely gonna be a lot more here.
Yeah. This is and yeah, I'm sure the build that of course we're playing at is like quite a while old. But just in terms of like not the once you're on character select screen, and like the training mode full features, really good, a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
The lobby thing, like we said, they worked that out, it's there.
Hilarious settings menu for controllers.
Right.
That is debug as fuck.
This is where I'm like, everything that is the front end of the game, everything that is like where the music is not playing, where you have the select your character, everything prior to that is real like early feeling. And yeah, I guess I was like, I thought like we would get a feel for like a menu that would be I mean, they might go with that same style and look and everything towards the end. I think what we're going to get is probably a more fleshed out version of what's there. But yeah, some of the just a lot of placeholder assets, a lot of placeholder stuff. With the tabs, you're kind of scrolling through, creating your quick little avatar, etc. But it's clearly those are not the priorities right now. The priorities is making sure that the gameplay is really fun and feels good. So you can see that's where all the focus was. With this, I would have felt the game. I probably would have felt, I was like, oh, we're probably going to see this game coming out, middle of next year, was my thought prior to seeing how early this was. Now I'm like, nah, we're going past that point.
Feel like winter of 25.
Yeah, late Q4 25 at the earliest is my heart. I just, because you just kind of assume. Go ahead.
I don't understand what is taking this fighting game so long.
Honestly, I really, really think that it's like spending a exhaustive amount of time making sure that it feels and like plays tight. It plays and feels like a Japanese fighting game, not a Western
it definitely
one.
Does. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, think about that, because there's not a lot of examples of that. It feels and plays like a Japanese fighting game.
So now we're over to where I feel my other feelings about this game, where I look at the roster that they've given us, and I look over at them talking about, man, it would be really hard to add Yordles to the game because of their small hitboxes. Yordles are those little furry dudes that look like kind of like a furry Yoda.
Yeah, the little mascots.
Teemo's one of those. And I look at what I'm looking at the real roster we have now, which is the safest 6-person roster imaginable. And I, as a goof, went out and expanded that out to the safest 16-person roster imaginable and threw that up on Twitter and was like, this has the potential to have the like freak list less roster ever, to have just all normal humies with like a full 8 or 9 characters that are from the TV show.
So we were spared the Jinx zoning game in this build.
We sure were.
Thankfully. That's going to be a nightmare when it comes, I'm sure. But the interview that they did talking about how they choose their characters from Evo was a really good one, actually, because they basically said it comes down to 2 criteria. And it's exactly what I was hoping to hear. It's what are we currently not hitting in terms of playstyle, and what are we currently not hitting in terms of the character themselves, you know? And like the goal is basically, if they're like whatever we are currently, whatever there's already a version of, we're going to try to get something else going, play style and character design style as well, and just keep it as, you know, as unique as possible going through that roster.
So like I totally get that. And so like Ilaoi is probably the best example of that, because she has a super weird play style that is a great, like I played Ilaoi in League, and she's a great translation of that
her style.
Just really annoying area denial shit with the tentacles into this. And I'm just like, there are so many weird characters in League that have super strange kits, but there are also like 25 like mid carries that are like the same guy but with different ranges.
So this is what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say like, how many muscle mommies are there, right? Because
not many. It's pretty much just Ilaoi.
Okay, well that's covered. That's done. Now I remember when I started out, when I played that Runeterra, right? I remember there was like a Darius like card, and then there was another Knight guy card.
Oh, the other Knight guy that I put on my list of worst roster imaginable. You mean Garen?
Is that who the other Knight guy is?
Yes.
Okay.
Garen.
Okay. Now I don't know what their kit difference is. But
Garen is. I can tell you right now. Do you know Whirlwind in Diablo?
Oh, the spinning attack.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whirlwind in Diablo goes to Whirlwind in Warcraft 3, which goes to Whirlwind in Dota, which goes to Garen.
Gotcha.
Garen does Whirlwind.
Okay. Well, based on the interview, it sounds like if Knight Guy is taken, we're not going to prioritize putting other Knight Guy in.
Yeah, but guess what? His sister, Lux, is one of the most popular characters ever in terms of skins.
I've heard that name before. I have heard that. I've heard Lux before. Yes, that's a name. That's true. Now, what's her kit?
She does light stuff. She throws like a bomb out and explodes. You can hold on.
Okay. Well, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. I'll you can just describe it. That's okay. Because it's like, just are we? What are we hitting? Okay. Where are the overlaps? Like basically, they're like, let's take the Venn diagrams of this roster and the moveset and the character designs and make the circles as far apart as possible. And I don't hate that philosophy. Because you're going to get your Teemo in there because that's fucking...
Okay, so... well, here's the thing. I understand them saying that.
Yeah.
And I understand your agreement with that, because that is also what I want. However, they have also not shown even one weirdo. Like, if they were talking about this... and they had shown off Teemo or Fiddlesticks or Nautilus or Kane or Aurelius or Senna or whatever, I'd be like, yes, okay, we'll have a bunch of weirdos in there. Or Kench or singed or whatever. I'd be
Brom
like, oh yeah, I totally agree with you. That seems really cool. But it's all normies.
Brom is weirdo adjacent in
No,
not even.
Brom is like, oh, I can't believe they put the 8 World Warriors in every game.
Gotcha. Okay, so you got some weird monster freakos that barely can be conceivable as fighting game characters to go through here.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
like a lot.
Well, think of the one with the weirdest kit. You might get that.
Lamb would
Sick.
be sick. Is Lamb the weirdest kit? I don't know.
Because you know what this is basically, remember how Shuma Gorath came to be in Marvel, right?
Yeah.
They were flipping through and they're just like they're like, okay, we got the Avengers, the main characters, the popular ones that you have to go. Let's get some fun shit in there. And they're flipping through the cards that Marvel gave them. And they're like capes, tights, capes. That that thing. What is that? Get that in, you know? And I would love to imagine that they kind of are flipping through and doing that. There's a balance, of course, because people like Vi and people like Jinx are brands, you know.
Yeah. Oh, so here's the other problem. I didn't even get to the second one. So Arcane came out, and then we're getting Arcane season 2, and including just the characters that are in Arcane season 1 and season 2 would fill up most of the roster, and I am very like, oh, I hope they don't.
I don't. No, I don't think that's. I don't. It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it. It seems as if you're gonna get a little fuzzy mascot that puts traps and bombs everywhere. That's
you mean Heimerdinger, the guy who's in Arcane?
Yes, sure, okay, that's a possible. But there's more than one of those, right?
Yes. There's like 30.
Okay, so you're gonna get one of those, but that's not the same type of freak as the undead necromancer thing that's gonna throw armies of the dead at you and use summoned control characters.
I would love to put that guy in there. What's his name?
Yeah. You know, and then whatever zombie control puppeteer is going to be is not going to be is not going to be the same as this other weirdo that has multiple like modes that it can switch into.
This has like the largest, most interesting roster for fighting game characters possible.
The possibilities.
But I would like to see one weirdo before they actually sell me on that. I want to see one character who's either too big or too small.
You
like when I look at Brom, I look at Brom's head almost touching the life bar, and I can immediately remove like 10 characters off the roster possibility because they're much larger than Brom.
So do you want like a Kusari Gedo style Samurai Showdown red freak monster going like you want like the complete odd, this is barely a fighting game character, like Blitz Tank style thing to be playable? Yeah. That'd be fun. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
You mean Blitz Crank? The gigantic robot that's been in League for like a decade?
So, I mean, I meant Blitz Tank as in the fucking tank.
I know.
But
and you said that. I went, yes, obviously. And then I realized you hadn't said Blitz Crank.
But
you had actually said Blitz Tank.
No, but Blitz Crank was on my list of fighters that I thought would be fun picks in this.
I want Nautilus so bad, and I'm not going to get him.
Right.
I'm super mad about it.
And I think like and you know, to go back, I mean, I think if there's if there you have room for that, right? What else did I have on there? Volibear was was on that. Yeah, there's a couple of there's possibilities.
There are a
Thresh.
lot of Thresh is if Thresh is not on that roster, it will be weird. Thresh has been super popular and is really old, and it is in tons of the like other media, like Runeterra and the RPG. And his kit, he's the first hook kit person.
Okay, I originally called out for Alawi when I was taking picks, so that worked out. I also was saying Master Yi, but it seems as if that's covered, right?
Master Yi can go to hell.
That's covered. That territory is taken. Yes. Beyond that,
So like, it's funny because like Vi hasn't been shown at all, but she's gonna be on the roster. She's
for sure,
the main character
for
of the
sure.
fucking show, and is also a big old punch lady.
I think, and like, and if there is, if you're like, when it's like, okay, what martial artist style character would be good? There's Lee Sin is another like possibility for like a fighting thing.
There's Shen and Lee Sin, and if they pick Shen,
the other one's not showing up, right? That's
yeah.
So yeah, I think you have some
they
you have some coin flips
Lee Sin instead of Shen.
You've got some coin flips, you know. And then what was the other ones I had? Riven
is a shoe-in. Riven has a install kit.
Okay, that's different from other stuff. There you go.
Yeah, no, Riven's entire gimmick is that she's putting pieces of a sword together and getting stronger and stronger over the course of the match.
Absolutely perfect for a fighting game that has no other overlap with the character style. Perfect. Yeah, big sword, do stuff. And Udyr, what was his deal?
Which one's him?
Udyr.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm rolling through my list.
Dude with he looks like a barbarian kind of guy.
Oh, fuck those two guys. There's Udyr and then there's Tryndamere.
Oh, okay. Stances.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in any case, all this to say that like, yeah, if there is something that's taken, then like you probably are not going to get the other. You know, Yasuo has a brother, right? Like that's the.
He has a brother that's also on the roster.
Okay.
Which is Yone, I think his name is.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there you go. Like,
yeah, he's just evil Yasuo.
Yeah, no Ryus and Kens, no Akumas. You know, we're getting the Venn diagram overlaps far apart from.
There's
each other.
also another character that's about time travel. That's not Echo.
Okay.
That will definitely not get in because he's like an old wizard.
Well, look, I'll say this: like, that's what they've said they're going to be using as their guiding philosophy, you know, and so we'll see. But I trust that to mean freaks are coming. That sounds
trust it when I have seen one freak.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like freaks inbound. there's a freak train.
Ever since they announced this game, I have taken a weirdly, even for me, a very intensely strong stance of if Teemo is not in this game sucks.
There will be a button pressed and a crank pulled, and like that episode of the Street Fighter cartoon, the gates will open and a bunch of monsters are gonna go, and they're just gonna rush the stage.
It also has like it's fascinating because this game has the potential for like the best and worst roster ever. So like I don't really care about like Evelyn, for example, but the idea that like the 4 KDA members would all make it in is possible. But I don't think all 4 of them deserve to get in.
Yeah, I think as well, what you'd probably see is I could see there being an internal rule of sorts where it's like there's schedule 1, you know, to use drug terms. There's schedule 1 characters and schedule 2, you know. And I think it's like, okay, so there's unavoidable overlap with like, I don't know, just what like hot girl and hot guy, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like in terms of character design. So in that case, they'll probably be like, if we're gonna get a very low variance score on, you know, how much they look different from the rest of the cast, then we're gonna go for their kit's gonna be real wild and out there. And then there'll probably be like I imagine somewhere there'll be like almost like Riot vetoes where it's like this character is a brand character that must be in no matter what, you know.
So like I'd like to see Mordekaiser in there because he's really big, but I think he's too big.
Make it work. Abigail, Kusari Ghetto. Blitz tank. Make it work. you know. But yeah, I think that's what they've said about it. So, and this is going to be like. Like this is the wild thing because like when it's like trying to figure out what Mortal Kombat characters are going to show up, it's a roster dwarfing that size, except it's full of people that people give a fuck about. So this is going to be the most cutthroat fucking list of announcements since a Smash game.
I think that there's no way for like anyone to be happy at the end of the
Everyone's
day.
mad. Everyone's mad at every announcement, and the comments are about to be fucking wild, dude.
I think the characters they have in this alpha are really safe, and people will go, yeah, okay, I get why Yasuo and Braum and Ilaoi would be there, but there's just so many of these that people care so much about that have like no chance in fucking hell of ever getting in at all. And we have no idea how big the roster is.
I
made my fake list assuming 16.
So you mentioned the World Warriors earlier, and like when I look at like Echo, I'm like, yeah, I've seen Echo in Arcane, and I know he's in the music videos and stuff, so that makes sense. Yasuo I knew about from way in advance because I was like, yo, put the cool samurai, that's cool, I like him. The others I don't know as much, but isn't Ilaoi on the more obscure side?
Ilaoi was like, so they've had a lot of external stuff. So they've had Ruined Terra, and they also had that RPG of the Ruined King. And if you look at those, you can tell which characters Riot likes to use more.
Okay.
So if you see a character that's in League, Ruined Terra, and the RPG they put out, Ruined King, they're probably going to be in here. So
all three or Arcane.
Yeah, all Braum and Ilaoi, and I think everybody was in that. So Miss Fortune is probably going to be on the list.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Her. I just remember when having a big discussion with the other like FGC folks about like, oh, what League characters would make sense and their builds and kits and stuff. I remember Ilaoi at the time. This was a while ago. This is like, maybe over a year, no, a couple of years probably. But it was folks were trying to be like, oh, what was her name again? That big girl with the tentacles. It was like, oh yeah, Ilaoi would be a good pick. That was kind of how the name came out. So I was like, oh, they didn't reach for it off the prime roster. It was a bit of a dig at the time. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm assuming she's
okay. So
not at the forefront.
Braum, Ilaoi, Yasuo, and Ari are all in Ruined King.
Okay.
And that was a solo RPG that came out a little while ago. I did a stream of it. It's pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, no, there's some clear favorites. And then there's characters that like Malphus, the rock monster. Sorry, Malphite, the rock monster. I don't think he's going to get in.
I'm expecting there to be like somewhere on that like I can imagine a character that's like mainly good at being a teammate more than being an individual.
Oh, that would be Kindred.
Yeah, so perfect. I love that there's something for everything there on those builds. Yeah.
There. I think there's a character whose ult is defined by it doesn't allow teammates to die. It just does not allow them to die.
Okay. I mean, Braum has the shield ability, which is fantastic. But in terms of like, covering support, like it's really just mainly about that, right? Someone that can like buff you and do things to you and focus back and that'd be interesting. But yeah. We'll see here. But either way, to go back earlier in the discussion about like, what they're going for and like how they have a low floor but a high ceiling in the design of this game and how it feels and plays. I think the thought
process like you better get ready to get your fucking ass kicked.
Yeah. Like. I mean, there will be a filter, but matchmaking will, will kick in the towers and whatever else they come up with. But I think the thought process, because like yeah, there's like Infill had like a good thread on this too as well. But the thought process I think is that like um games that are like fairly easy and accessible like do exist, but there are also things where like you can get interest in, and the brand will bring a lot of that in. You know, Dragon Ball
Mhm.
is a good example. But if there isn't stuff there for like people that are more familiar to like go further into and stick with, there's going to be a bounce off within a couple months, right?
So yeah, so Runeterra, despite the fact that it's like kind of deprecated now, they're going to continue working on their single player roguelike mode that a lot of people really like. Um, because people don't necessarily want to play cards against their people, but they do want to play cards.
Hmm.
And I can kind of see that here. It's like I would be very surprised if this thing does not have some kind of in-depth single player something.
I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah. Um, and you know, there's the like Tekken had its like single player story, and then single player your avatar story world
Mhm.
mode. You know, whatever they end up doing, I would like it to be like a nice, you know. I mean, Arcane does kind of set a type of like, hey, you can tell a story like this, and I don't know how the other League World games do any handle their storytelling at all. Um, but you know,
Well, League doesn't have a story.
it's just characters dropping in the
League
rift,
of
right?
Legends doesn't have a story.
Yeah.
And then they had a story, and then they retcon the story to no longer exist, and it's a whole thing.
Um,
So they just do whatever they kind of want.
but
I love how people go, League does have a story. Then the next comment is they deleted it. And then the third comment is it did have a story.
is the story in all the profile pages for the characters when you read their
No, not
bios?
even. Wooly, the titular League of Legends no longer exists in its own setting.
Whoa. Okay. I think Min described for me, because I asked him about it during Arcane, that like the the places that all of that game is taking place is just essentially like a Secret Wars rift dimension that
I don't
doesn't
think that's
even
true. I
really.
think I don't think that's accurate.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, anyway, there's like a place that's just
No,
separate
they're countries.
from that entire setting that
They're
was.
countries people live in.
um well, but all this to say that yeah, the thought process is that like if you have a game that has enough to chew on and enough for people that are like absolute freaks to stick with and experiment with and do all the insane shit that Echo is doing is so nuts.
It's real
It's so
insane.
insane, and like, and I think, and so the idea, the thought is like, okay, give people who love that, give lab monsters, give spectators, give everyone the wildest, crazy, you know, like shit that is not going to be solved immediately, and that's going to ensure that longevity for people that are like fans of that, right? That'll ensure as, and like with that longevity, there'll be really good players that'll stick around and keep that going. And I think they bring alongside a lot of other people who are gonna be like, again, adjacent in the like, FGC oriented, like, you know, I'm in, I can play kind of decently, and I like watching, and I like sticking around and stuff, and I create content for this game, I keep it alive online, I keep the discussion going. There's a lot of value in the type of person who, you know, is like engaged to that degree. And I think if there's things like that, and you're just like these events, then there's things that they sponsored tours and whatever, like that will at large attract more people to give it a shot, stick around, etc. There's going to be some people that are coming over from League that are just like, hey, it's the new League related thing, let's just touch it and see how that goes. But it is certainly true that like if you can take a game like this and it doesn't have those little optimizations, those little extensions, those little things that allow you to
Mhm.
swag a little bit more, it cuts off the top, and then that cuts
Yeah.
off the middle, which then eventually cuts off the bottom, and it kills
Right.
the game faster. So that's what they're trying to avoid, and probably, you know, by having these clips of like wild shit, crazy moments, and people popping off, and you know, so on. It's like there's some there's an interest that'll be gathered from that. It will also, of course, it's a decision you have to make to say, like, by putting that in there, if anyone feels that they are not going to enjoy it if they cannot play at that level, that's not gonna work out, right? Like if you're like, hey, I'm gonna be Marlon Pie, you know what I mean? Like you're like, no, you're not. Like that's not, But if you can look at it and kind of be like, okay, these are not required, and furthermore, you can still have fun without them. Then I think it'll be okay. But this is probably a decision so that the game lasts years and not months.
Yeah, well,
I get it.
The other thing that I'm thinking of is like now that I've played it and the game's hot, like the game is very good. Clearly, like this isn't balanced, this and whatever, right? I'm like, well, how like I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter 6, and that they have like 4 characters a year feels really slow for that game. And the way that League handles it is it's free, but they're constantly putting out new characters, and they're constantly putting out cosmetics. And like by comparison, my current example that I'm spending a lot of time with is Street Fighter 6, which took like 9 or 10 months to put out a set of costume. Like how long did that take for the costume 3s to come out?
I don't remember the exact schedule, but the side-by-side comparison, Street Fighter V had a fuck ton of cosmetics and stuff out. By this point in time, there was a lot. There was a high pace, and half of them were Chun-Li outfits.
And so I look at like a League fighting game, and I'm like, I wonder about the size of the roster and how fast they want to expand it. With it being a tag game, like we've talked about this before, where like tag games like feel like their roster is like a division of whatever amount of people you get to have on a team. So like if you have a 2 tag system, it feels like the roster's half the size. And if you have a 3 tag system, it feels like it's even smaller.
Because you're seeing more. Mm-hmm. You feel it faster.
And I'm just like, 16 is like technically the minimum for a fighting game, but that would feel like crazy small, wouldn't it?
It would. But I also expect this game to... Okay, well, you know what? I can't say based on Valorant or other games that they've put out, but like, the way League puts stuff out is, there's just this insanely huge roster, and then they just throw numbers on top of the pile over time. If the game launched with a roster and then... if the game launched with a smaller roster, but then they had a constant stream of new characters incoming, that is like one approach. Or they can wait longer and put out a bigger initial roster and then have sparser releases. The incoming stream of character, how many League characters come out at what pace?
Nowadays it's much less.
Okay. During the peak,
like 2 a month.
Okay, Jesus Christ, yeah. So
now it's like 1 every 2 or 3 months.
So the benefit of a frequent release, like with stuff like that, which, this is just the way things are these days. It is that like you get to be in the news cycle again, right? That was not factored in initially with the concept of expansions and DLCs and things like that, but it did become very real that like, hey, whoever is out for this game, it runs through the news cycle. Everyone sees it again. They get another a chance to be like, oh yeah, I should pick this up, or whatever the case is. So you might end up seeing like really big season passes or not season passes, but like a really big annual release schedules. I also think as well, looking at the skins tab, did you see how like the 2 optional skins they had were like listed as like, oh, there's like rarity, legendary, right?
Yeah.
That in my brain goes, oh, if you're putting these in and you're calling that with that level rarity,
it's funny because that's the logic that League uses,
which implies a fuck ton of skins.
Yeah, it implies that there's 3 types of skins: colors, model change, and it changes your animations as well. So like in a fighting game context, it couldn't change your like normals, but it could definitely change the way your super looked.
Okay. Or like, yeah, the weapon you're using, the appearance and
Yeah.
the effect on the color. Yeah, I see what you mean. Right.
But that means there's plans for at least 2 costumes per character right out the gate.
I mean, if the game's going to be free, I would say 3, right? Like, you got to make money everywhere that you can if you're going to monetize at every opportunity.
And
while
also,
the game
just
is
like
free,
League,
skins are
the
huge.
only 2 characters that have extra costumes in this alpha are Ari and Yasuo. That is very normal.
Okay. Can you customize? Can you customize things like other cosmetic elements of the character? You know, win poses,
No,
you know,
I don't
intros,
think-
things.
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Because if like you wanted to take it to that level, which again monetization takes it as far as it possibly can, you know, I could see there being, you know, like, hey, get this special win pose, get these special 3 taunts, you know, or whatever, like just all these things, because the game's free otherwise. They're gonna try to sell you whatever they can. I would not be surprised, you know. But yeah, the rarity being listed as legendary makes me think you're gonna have a fuck ton of costumes coming, as well with each of those characters. So like, I expect just a steady stream of shit every month, you know, or so when this drops, at least for the first year or 2, if and then, you know, maybe an adjustment after a certain period of time. In Wild Rift you can, the mobile one. I see. Okay.
That thing is so disappointing and so upsetting. So Wild Rift is League of Legends
the simplified
for your
mobile
phone.
game, right? Yeah.
So it's a much better version of League of Legends. Like, matches take half the time, and the presentation on everything is a million times better. And then they just canceled the console ports. The idea was that it would be on your phone, and then it would also come to consoles, so we could get League on the consoles. And then they canceled it. And it was like, that version of the game is so much more fun than regular League.
Sorry, bro. The 45-minute toxic experience is what we want to focus on right now. Oh man, yeah. It's funny how much people are just like, the anticipation of the horrendous toxicity that's incoming. I'm looking forward to Scrub Coats going overtime on this one, you know.
Oh, it's gonna be.
But yeah,
It'll be good. Though I will say, seeing that picture of those guys, those League players chatting, going, so is it normal to not have any fun when you start playing a fighting game and then 2 different guys just go, yes?
Oh my god.
It's so goddamn good.
The Alpha Lab being everyone at every skill level is just in the same room go, and this is all we're doing right now. No matchmaking whatsoever. It's brutal. It is brutal. No way around it. But you know, they're being pretty uncompromising about where that ceiling and where that floor is going to be placed. It was kind of interesting as well when we kind of saw that new fuse with the easy input combos as well, because it was like, you know, asking them, and Evo was like, oh yeah, so you put in this newer fuse that like it simplifies it even further, and they were like, yeah, like the game is already simple with the inputs, but it just because you have simple inputs, it doesn't mean you can find the fun right away. Right.
Yeah, what if you're like a 2-year-old child?
So that was that was an even faster way to find the fun, and to some, if you see the same logic in like, oh yeah, we've got classic and modern mode in Street Fighter 6, but beyond that we also have dynamic, you know.